interesting question. It's tough to quantify. I would say that now fear you can overcome. Desire you can either give into or not. So that's a battle that goes on. Now with anger, the interesting thing is that anger can lead you to do better things, right? So these can be dealt with in different ways. I don't want to quantify and put them on the same scale. But if I were to pick one, I'd say fear is the one that troubles the most. Well, there would be. I think any set of parents would be surprised. It's not a choice of career as much as an interest in neuroscience. I mean, I think I'd like to think that I've always been different in my interests. And of course, when you're young and with the lack of awareness, you tend to focus on what your parents and your peer group tells you, and that was IIT. So I went there, but then of course, as I developed, I realized that engineering was not my interest. I wanted to discover something else. At that point, the brain seemed rather interesting. Now, I didn't know enough. I just read a book by V.S. Ramachandran. I don't know if you heard of a book called Phantoms in the Brain. I thought that was wonderful, that was life-changing for me because it made me take a different path. But looking back, it was a very reckless decision. I didn't know what I was getting into. I had no idea what graduate work was like. But also looking back, I think that reckless decisions are what we need to take. And that's not something we've been able to do because I think both culture and our economic factors have dictated that perhaps we should stay away from risk. I don't think that's the case now, so you'll see more people doing things like I have. I think it plays a role. I mean, there have been studies showing that the increase of erotic material, the increase in availability of erotic material also correlates with the decrease in crimes, especially sexual crimes. So it's easy to see why that might be. I don't know if that's a fact yet, but it's very easy to see how, ultimately going back to what you said, a desire has to be slaked, whether that's met by a fantasy or by a reality that's bad, that's violent. That desire is still being met, right? So why not let it be met in the realm of fantasies? So in that way, I think yes. So repression, what repression does is the desire itself is suppressed. It's painted as bad and impure. And in doing so, you're not giving any outlet. When you acknowledge that the desire is fine, that's natural, that's human, it's part of who we are, it's part of what made us survive all these millennia, then you realize that perhaps, okay, there are ways to meet this desire without hurting anyone else. And I think unconsciously that we have arrived at that awareness in other countries. I don't think we have done that here. We used to have that. We've lost that perhaps because of Victorian repression or prudery. I don't know. That's a guess. But to answer your question, yes, I think repression does hurt. It's interesting. I mean, the reason we do not talk about it is I think that's forbidden knowledge till you hit puberty. And then we used to have instruction passed down when you're getting married, but now that instruction comes from peer groups, but it's still hidden. There's no acknowledgement that this is natural. It happens in other countries. Germany is very open about that. They even have books about that. We don't have that here. So people have no idea, and when you have no idea, the gap of knowledge is filled by wrong ideas and by exaggerations, which hurt more than help. Well, I'd say all emotions are here for a reason, right? Now, guilt typically means that you've not met your goals, or that you've met your goals in a way that was unethical, or you've hurt someone along the way. And I think it's forcing you in a good way to think about your priorities and whether you're doing the right thing in life or you're not doing the right thing in life. So in that way, yeah, guilt does help. But you need to know what you're guilty about. Is it simply because of certain ideas that you have that are not they're just simply handed down, or are they ideas that will actually help you move forward in life? Psychiatry should build on neuroscience. Psychiatry is still it works at a personal level. So there's the neuroscience of it, which I think is very important. So psychiatrists are realizing that as well. But there's also the cognitive side, right? It's not just the chemicals in the brain, but it's also the environment you're in. And I think psychiatry perhaps focuses a lot more on that. And I think the balance is shifting now. So now they're recognizing the importance of the chemical environment as well.